the story we'll be telling how a villainous man moves. Just listen if you fit in that man's shoes. Manifest the evil that man do. Money be the evil, the deceiver that man use. Manipulate a friend and a family, ooh. Over money that man a flip on his family, ooh. Over money, no honor, no rules. What's a man with no honor, no rules? Watch a man in the mirror be you. Tell the man in the mirror, step up, you better be true. Fear the man that be governing you. Yeah, fear the man that got nothing to lose. Yeah, still we hustle, we struggle, we choose. Still we live and we love and we lose. Yeah, no afraid I'd open our spirit.
All right, we still got people coming in.
Fear man that we holler, we choose.
Yes. We're gonna start around. We got like another 5 minutes. So we're gonna let people. 5. So we're gonna let people come in, and then we'll get started. So if you, Ashland, if you go to the bottom of your screen, it'll say audio, and then you can just touch the microphone button. So you should probably mute it already. So for those who just joined, we're going to start at 6:05. So we got another 4 minutes to let people get in.
Bad mind, the energy choked up. Backstabber, the dagger, the worst cut. Imagine the malice a man a hold, cause he's mad at another man and he won't budge. Plotting, planning that man a whole grudge. Nothing to stop him, is showing no love. Steadily scheming and feeling no love. Instead of be ready and loading more guns. Ready to bury his very own son. His mother, his brother, they better all run. Remember people, the power be you. Yeah, say the people, the power be you. Oh, no afraid I'd open no spirit, no ghoul. Fear man, the wahala with you. Yeah.
Everybody just so you guys know, 3 more minutes, and then we'll get started. For the people who are coming in, people asking about muting yourselves. It's a webinar, so you don't have to mute yourself because we can't hear anybody except for the panelists, so you guys are good.
Why you for fear us? Why you for fear good? For fear human.
Some of them too watch you though.
No more show. But the shock self. I 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 the shock self.
You cannot see the guest. No. We can't see your faces and we can't hear you, but please interact in the chat. We're happy to see you guys engage. And we'll respond, so. And there will be a question and answer, so you guys will be able to do all of the stuff if you can't see. And we're gonna start in 1 minute. You can thank Duwaba. He will be on in a minute, but he chose the music.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end of the song. So we can get started, and the rest of the folks that are joining they'll hop on when they're ready. So let's see. I guess first we should thank all of y'all for attending tonight's info session. If this is your first time attending anything, related to the Open Road Fund. If this is your first time ever hearing about us, welcome. Excited to share with you what this process is like and hopefully support you in getting started on your journey towards building wealth for yourself, your family, and your community. If you have rocked with us in the past, if you've applied for the Open Road Fund before, if you've heard about us, welcome back. And think before we start, thank you also to our team and to Sister Catherine Langford, who's on our community advisory committee, for attending tonight and supporting tonight's info session. My name is Duwaba Unenra. I'm the grants manager for the Open Road Fund, and I'm proud to be here with my home girl, Olivia.
Hey, y'all.
What you do at the Open Road Fund?
So I'm the program manager of the Open Road Fund. And I'm happy to be here with the other folks who are also here, like my homegirl Shireen, who's going to be presenting today too, who just gave y'all the piece. And
And
thanks everybody for being here.
Mhm. And also Lavasha, our program director, who is still standing strong with us, even though she's a little bit busy, a little under the weather. So we'll carry things for the rest of the evening. Um, just by way of starting, please note that if you have to leave tonight's session early, we're recording the session, as you might have noticed if you came in a little bit earlier, or if you miss anything, if you don't catch something in your notes, we'll upload this on our website, our YouTube channel, and we'll also announce that the recording is available through our Instagram and by email. So you'll have a bunch of different ways to catch up on anything that you missed during the session if you have to leave early or get disconnected. If you do get disconnected and you want to join again, just hop back on the call. We'll be here until 7:30, might even be a little later, depending on how long questions are going. Olivia's like, nah, bro, not me. Um, tonight's info session is set up as a webinar, and so that means that we can't see y'all's faces, even though you can see us. But you will be able to ask questions through a Q&A feature that we have here. It's all based in the chat. Members of our team will be watching the chat to look out for your questions, and we're just gonna pick them and kind of go through one by one. If there's questions that are similar, we'll group them together. And we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll also do a live demonstration of the application. And so if you came tonight, then you kind of get an advantage on everybody else that might be applying, get an early preview of what's in store. And I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So let me pass it over to you, Olivia, to kick us off. Right? Is that how we're doing it? And then,
That is our numbers. Yeah, that's the next slide.
or is it me? Here's our agenda.
Yeah. But you kind of started a little bit, but we're going to give you guys a little background on the Open Road Fund. We're going to go over who our team is, what we believe, how we define Black wealth, who the fund is for, how the fund works, and how we support Black wealth. We're going to talk a little bit about the results of the 2024 Open Road Fund, and then Duabe is going to do the live demo of the application. We're going to do Q&A at the end, and then we're going to close out. And I just want to address the people who are like, well, we're on mute. How are we going to ask questions? If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's like a little like word bubble with a question mark in the middle that says Q&A. That's where you'll put your questions, and then we'll answer them live. But so if you put them in there while we're going through the session, we're not going to answer any of them until we get to the end. But you can fill them out whenever you want.
Yeah, and more than likely, the content that we have on these slides will answer a lot of the questions that you may have. So, just be patient, bear with us. And even if we don't answer the questions through the slides, we'll be sure to pick up most, if not all of the questions tonight. All right, so first we want to tell y'all a little bit about who we are, what our program is, what we do. So if you are not familiar, the Open Road Fund is a community resource. We're a community wealth building fund or community trust fund. And we are stewarded, or our resources are stewarded by Nexus Community Partners. That's the organization that our team works for. Nexus is a 20-plus-year-old community organization based in St. Paul, Minnesota. that supported community development over those last 2 decades. Our team has been tasked with awarding um, about $50 million in gifts to Black people that are living in Minnesota and the Dakotas, and also any of the 23 Native nations whose territories are occupied by those 3 states, and who are also descendants of Africans that were enslaved in North, Central, and South America, as well as the Caribbean. Um, a lot of people ask us if these grants are reparations. No, the grant program is not a reparations program, but we like to think of it as a dress rehearsal for it. Our people are owed way more than $50,000 a piece, which is the award amount that we give to individuals through the fund. Um, but the intention behind the program is to redistribute resources for economic stability and wealth building. As all of y'all probably know, our ability to generate wealth and to keep it has been impeded or it has been sabotaged through systemic racism and systemic forms, institutionalized forms of oppression since our folks got here or were brought here rather. And so this fund is attempting to create an opportunity for our community here in the tri-state region to find and build pathways towards wealth, healing, prosperity, and self-determination on our own terms. That's what the Open Road Fund is about. And I'm gonna pass it to you.
All right, so there is a racial wealth divide in the United States between Black and white households specifically, which is why we are doing this. The divide was created by longstanding practices of economic, physical, and legal violence against people of African descent. The racial wealth divide began with enslavement and has been maintained through new Jim Crow. Despite legal reforms in the 1870s, 1960s, and 1970s, the divide has continued to grow and has been worse in recent events. The purpose of the Open Road Fund is to assist as many Black families in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, so in our region, as possible over the next, now it's 6 years, 5 years? It's the third year? It's not 7 years, it's the third year of 8 years, so the next 5, to close the racial wealth divide. And so we do this by supporting people's projects, build personal, family, and community wealth is what we are doing here.
Mm-hmm. So this is our team. You can see our lovely faces over here to the left. And then also 2 folks who were instrumental in making this whole project happen and who may or may not be here is our president and CEO, Rapah Nakai, and Danielle Mkali, our vice president of programs and strategy. They were instrumental in fostering and building the partnership that we have with the Bush Foundation. And that's the Bushes of Minnesota, 3M, not the Bushes of Houston and W. But the Bush Foundation and our funder there, Jackie Statham Allen, collaborated together through a process where an open call was presented to Black-led organizations throughout Minnesota and the Dakotas to become stewards of the funds. Nexus was selected out of several organizations that applied. And we were then trusted and tasked with distributing the awards. But none of that would have been able to happen without the work of Rapah and Danielle, and also with a lot of early support from our program director, Lavasha. So shout out to y'all if y'all are listening or watching the recording. And I'm gonna pass it back to you, Olivia.
All right, I'm actually going to pass it over to Shireen to talk about our advisory committee.
Hello, you all. Again, I'm Shireen Onukwe, and I work with the Open Road Fund as the program associate. And as both Olivia and Duaba mentioned, is that the Open Road Fund is a community trust fund. And we serve North Dakota, Minnesota, and South Dakota. And part of doing that service, as well as the gift making, is we have some mighty partners who do this work with us. And one of those members are on right now, Catherine Langford, who owns Finance and Affirmations. and also offered some workshops and lots of other services, one-on-ones, to help our awardees. So the advisory council is a big part of not only advising and counseling, offering counsel to the Open Road Fund, but also was instrumental in the design and implementation of the fund. So these are all the members of that fund, and I will say their names because we never do. Aisha, Anura, Kirsten, Jimmy, Catherine, Rachel, Jared, Talea, Genesia, Angela, Shaniqua, Chloe, Ron, and Jocelyn. So again, they live in all the 3 regions. Do you also want me to talk about the other partners, Yates and RIA? Research in Action.
Yeah, so not our partners, but they are Black-led organizations that we work with. But you can talk about them.
Okay, so Research in Action is an evaluation company. Their main goal is that they lead projects that redirect power, transform relationships, and create radical change. So they have been guiding our and also guiding our evaluation work, but also helping with a longitudinal study that we will be doing to kind of track what the larger impact of this initiative is. So that is Research in Action, and it's led by Dr. Brittany Lewis. And then we also work with Yates Creative, who is in the Bay Area. And Yates Creative is a strategic communications agency striving and their goal is to enhance the stories of community-centered businesses and nonprofits, and in an effort to collectively achieve Black liberation. So they really focus on Black storytelling as a power. So they've been really, again, instrumental in the design of the look of even what you're seeing here on this slide. So yeah, and they're great.
They are. And while we're on Yates, I just want to say, anybody who hasn't been to our website yet and seen the stories of some of our past awardees, go there, do that. They designed the website. They did the storytelling. It's beautiful. You should visit.
And I should also mention that we do have a definition of Black wealth that's not definitive, but something that was co-designed by and co-developed by the Advisory Council, Research in Action, and Nexus Community Partners and staff. Nexus Community Partners staff, and the Open Road Fund in particular. So I'm going to read the short version of it, which is Black wealth is, but is not limited to, healing from over 5 centuries of labor and livelihood stolen from us on this stolen land. Black wealth is owning what we produce. Black wealth is building and inventing for our families and community. Black wealth is a creative and sovereign practice of restoration that reaffirms the excellence that has always been in us. So that's, that's a good starting point. But yeah, we do, and we do also have this definition on our website on Nexus Community Partners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to build off of what Shireen shared, that definition of wealth building was created through a process of listening, interviewing, and sending out surveys to about 1,000 people from our community across the tri-state region. And so based on the responses that we got back, we worked with Research in Action to weave all of the responses together and generated that wealth definition. And that is what guides how we develop the program and what kind of project categories, I should say, that we fund through the program. And we'll share more about that in a little bit. And so just sharing a little bit more about what we believe. Part of why this program is called the Open Road Fund is because we believe that many paths can lead us to our destiny. And that when we're faced with barriers to our destiny, to the prosperity that is our birthright, we can call upon our ancestors, but also call upon one another to guide us on the open road towards liberation. And so, in honor of the resiliency and communal spirit of our ancestors and all of us who are here together right now, the Open Road Fund is intended to heal generations of economic inequality and systemic obstacles to Black wealth building in this region. So, we have enough resources right now until we get some money from Beyonce, Rihanna, Alicia Keys, Idris Elba, so on and so
All the
on.
Black billionaires.
Black billionaires. Until we get some more money, we have enough. We have enough resources to redistribute awards and gifts to 800 Black households in our region, and so that's 800 out of about I think it's between 480 to 500,000 Black people in our region, and so we know that scale is not quite enough to make a dent in terms of what is owed to our people. And nevertheless, we still believe and trust that when some of the folks in our community are able to open a path towards prosperity, they will lift more of us as they climb. And so, based on that belief, we do the work that we do to get gifts and resources to folks in our community. Um, and so Shireen's already shared a little bit about our Black wealth definition. And so just to recap that, attaining Black wealth for us primarily is about restoring what has been stolen. And so we acknowledge that our ancestors, our people, we come from wealth. We were taken as wealth. And before we got here, and even as we arrived here and made a life here, wealth is what came out of our hands, is what we worked with the ground to generate, is what we pulled down from the ether to make into our culture. It's what we've used to rebuild our communities out of the violence of the Ma'afa, the great tragedy of enslavement. And Black wealth is also about using the material resources, the creative resources, the intellectual resources, the cultural resources that are available to us to reclaim our rights to self-determination. And so the end goal of this is not just to have money in a bank with cobwebs on it that's growing for generations and generations. The intention behind this work is to restore our sovereignty and our ability to decide the future for ourselves. And for us, that's our ancestral birthright that we're reclaiming and supporting our community in reclaiming. And so just to kind of end in this section, I'll say that how we look at Black wealth is that it's a matter of liberation, restoration, freedom, and creativity that comes from reclaiming our mind, body, and our soul from a system that systematically extracts wealth from our communities. So Black wealth for us is about healing, healing from an ancestral disruption, healing from our present day displacement into these United Snakes. And it's also about exercising our right to self-determination through owning what we produce through our own hands and our creativity, for our families, for our communities, with love for our families and communities. So that's a little bit about us and why we do what we do. So now I want to share a little bit about the first steps that we took on the Open Road Fund. So we launched the fund in 2023. And over 2023 and 2024, we distributed gifts of $50,000 to 199 Black people across urban and rural Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Unfortunately, throughout that time, 2 applicants dropped out of the process. Almost 11,000 people applied the first year that we opened, and about 4,500 people applied the second year. 88% of all people that apply are from the Twin Cities Metro, and that is just about how our population as Black people is distributed across the region as well. Most of us are in the Twin Cities Metro, and then you have smaller cities like Rochester, Duluth, Sioux Falls, Fargo, where there are communities of us that are growing. When we award gifts, we do so in proportion with the population distribution across the region. And so what that has meant is that 60 or more percent of the gifts that are awarded go to Black people in the metro region, and the rest are distributed across the region. And then the majority of people who applied both years tended to be women and people who made less than $35,000 per year. The average household wealth for a 2.5 person Black household, so that's two adults and possibly one child, is about $50,000. And so a gift from the fund is equivalent to 1 year's wages for an entire household, an entire Black household. The other thing that you may have noticed about the Open Road Fund is that we have this real funky looking symbol that we use to represent our fund on occasion. And this symbol is called Njem. And so this glyph that we have to represent us is from the Igbo language. That's one of the many ancestral tongues that were spoken by our ancestors. And Njem means journey. And so the proverb that's connected to this symbol is all paths lead to our destiny, but some paths are longer than others. And so what we should want for one another is the most clear and easy path to our destiny, to our birthright, which is prosperity. And we should create for one another a blessed and easy journey from birth back to creation. So this symbol just continues to speak about our intentions as a fund. So now we want to talk a little bit about the ancestry eligibility requirements and how the fund works. So I'm gonna pass it to Olivia to talk about that.
All right, so this fund is for Black folks. This gift giving initiative is for Black people, as you can see right there. So the Open Road Fund makes gifts of $50,000 to Black people who are descended from African people who were enslaved in the Americas. So that means if your ancestors were stolen from Africa and brought to Jamaica or Florida, y'all are both eligible. And so you also have to be at least 14 years old, and you have to reside in Minnesota, North Dakota, or South Dakota, or any of the 23 nations whose territories are occupied by those states. During the application process, we ask for applicants to provide some information about their ancestry and family history. We trust you to provide the most accurate information that you can based on what you know about who you are and who you are descended from. So I just want to clarify that specifically. We have care calls specifically to address the feelings that come from this. So if you don't know because your great grandma was from Florida and that's as far back as you can get, but you're pretty sure that your ancestors were enslaved, like tell us that. We understand that a part of being in our community is not knowing. And so we don't need you to take a DNA test. We don't need you to get into ancestry.com to try to find your enslaved ancestors. We don't need names. We just want to know how you know that you're one of us, right? We just want to know how you know. And so answer that as best you can. And please don't feel too pressured about having to explain who you are. So. Notes about the application. So we now require all applicants to submit identifying documents to discourage fake applications. And people who don't live in the region, right? So even if you are a Black person, but you live in Chicago, you're not eligible. If you live in Atlanta, you're not eligible. DeWaba's people in New Orleans, they all love to apply, not eligible. So we do ask for IDs during the application. We also ask about life experiences to understand if we're reaching our full community. So what that means is when you're in the application, and you'll see it later when DeWaba's in there, but it'll ask are you living in a single parent home? Are you a child of foster? Have you been to prison? Was your parent imprisoned? We ask that question because we know that these things happen to our people disproportionately higher than the rest of the nation. And if for some reason we don't get anybody who has been incarcerated, we are missing something. So we want to make sure that we're reaching everybody. So it's not going to help you get the gift, but it will help us make sure that we are reaching out to everybody who is eligible for the gift. So please answer those honestly, and don't feel weird about answering the question. If you are selected to receive a gift from the Open Road Fund, please prepare by opening a bank account. If you do not have a bank account already, we can't, like, when by the time it's time to distribute funds. So you can still apply if you don't have one now, is what I want to say. If you don't have a bank account today, it is okay, but you will need a bank account by the time we send you your money, because we cannot do Venmo, Cash App, Chime, or PayPal. It's not on us. We would love to be able to do it, but they can't take those funds. It'll just get turned around and then it'll be in limbo. So please have a bank account. And you will also need to submit 2 letters of support. So these letters need to be no longer than a page. They must be written by a Black community member, and they have to live in the region too. Only 1 letter of support can be written by a relative, and we will include more detailed information about that on our website. The only thing that I want to make sure everybody here knows is that those letters of support are not required unless you are chosen to receive a gift. So you do not need to get those letters written up front. But you should just be thinking, like, who can write a letter? Who can I tell about my plan? Who do I trust to be like, yo, dude's a really good person and you should give them the money because I believe in their plan. That's basically what we're looking for. So yeah, next slide, please. How the fund works. So to participate in the Open Road Fund, you first have to fill out a registration application. So the application opens on Juneteenth. So on June 19th, you can go to our website. It'll be there. That is the registration application. That's the first part. So what we're going to ask is that you share about your background, your ancestry. You tell us what kind of wealth building projects you want to start with a gift of $50,000. And you can apply as an individual, or you can apply in a group of up to 5 people, but you cannot do both. So if you want to start a farm with your friends, that's one application. You can't also submit an application to like start a food truck by yourself. But once you submit your application, your registration application, we're going to review the application submitted for completion and quality. And then we will select at random 101 applicants to make the gifts for 2025. And so random selection is how we choose, y'all. We don't handpick. We put it into we have a software and it chooses people at random. Our advisory committee and the Black staff at Nexus will review all of the selected applicants to make sure that you're really eligible and that your wealth building plan aligns with our values. And it cannot be a nonprofit. You cannot start a nonprofit. I'm just going to say it again. You cannot start a nonprofit. So like that's one of the things. And then the finalists selected for the gift for the Open Road Fund will then be asked to fill out a second application. So if you're selected after your registration application, there is a second part where we're going to get more detail about your wealth building project. And then after that is approved, you get the money and we do the distributing, and then you will officially do it. So this first part of the application that opens on Juneteenth is just the registration application. And then if you're selected, there is more work on the back end. So it's not just one. How we support Black wealth building. So gifts from the Open Road Fund may be used to support wealth building projects that align with one of the 5 wealth building project categories. So these are our themes. These are like, they come directly out of that wealth building definition that we created with community and our advisory committee. And so this is what you can use the money for. So first, we have financial well-being. So it's projects that create stability and relief from economic hardship through increasing savings, investments, and more. So if what you really need to do is get your credit score up so that you can reach these other goals that you have and you need to manage debt and make investments, that's what you would put as your theme. Economic power. So projects that create ownership over businesses, capital assets, equipment, software, and even cooperative owned enterprises. So that's that farm that we were talking about. And you can like sell the vegetables, or you can start a business with yourself or your friends. We love co-ops. Nexus loves co-ops. We also love co-ops. We like to see people working together, but this is if you're going to start a business. Education, so projects that build wealth by increasing knowledge through degrees, certifications, licenses, and acquiring new skills. So this is like if you want to pay for college, right? Or you want to pay for, because we go down to 14. So if you want to go to a private high school that's going to get you a better shot at a better college, it can pay for that. And it doesn't also have to be directly tied to paying for school. If you want to increase your knowledge about like ancestral well-being practices, this for you. Housing, so projects that include purchasing a family home, rehabbing or improving an existing housing to increase equity. So if you want to use that 50,000 to buy a house that you don't have yet, dope. If you want to use it to rehab your kitchen or update your plumbing or get a new roof, dope. It'll all be in housing. And then health and healing, so projects that help people to rest, travel, pursue creative projects, and learn about their heritage or cover medical care. As y'all know, this current administration is really coming at Medicaid, so y'all might need some help. And we are happy to be that help. It also is if you want to take we had a grantee or a giftee, an awardee, take a legacy trip to Africa with her children to show them like this is where we come from. Like this is a place that isn't just whiteness and then you, right? So that's covered in here too. So all of these things are what we do support, and we can go to the next one. Oh, it's UD.
Okay, so I'm just getting set up to do a live demonstration of the Open Road Fund application. So give me 1 second. I'm almost ready. So thank y'all for bearing with us so far. Just before I start and do the live demo, just want to remind you all that we are tracking questions that you have in the chat. Please enter any questions that you may have about anything that we've shared or anything that we haven't shared yet, but you're curious about in the Q&A feature of our Zoom call. If we see any questions that you have in the chat too, our team will remind you to do so. And once we get to the Q&A section, we'll be sure to answer as many questions as we can, if not all of them. I haven't seen a lot, so that probably means we've been explaining ourselves really well, as we often do on the Open Road Fund team. And just a reminder, please save the date, June 19th, 2025, this year, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, Central Black People Time. That's when the application opens. It will be open until July 21st of this year at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, Central Black People Time. And if you want to learn more about the Open Road Fund, please visit our website. It is nexus, nexuscp.org/open road fund with a little dash between each of the words. And you can find all of the information that you might possibly want about the fund there. So now what I want to do is share my screen again, but this time I'm going to show you the application. So just give me 1 second to switch it up. And yeah, I saw that some folks have to go. That's all right. We're recording the call, so anything that you miss, you'll be able to find it once we get the recordings uploaded. But for now, this is what the 2025 Open Road Fund application looks like. And so if this is your first time seeing it ever, what I want to say before we go into it is that this application is very short. It's very, very simple. The questions that we ask are not trick questions. The answers that we're looking for are pretty simple, direct, straightforward. And we have designed this whole application process to support you in reflecting on how you would want to build wealth for yourself, your family, and your community. Some of the features of this application that we take a lot of pride in is that we have these really cool support videos. And so if you would like to have any section of the application signed in American Sign Language, or if you're somebody who prefers to have text read aloud to you before you respond to it, if you're someone who likes to have captions as something is read to you, the first thing that you can do is come in and click on one of these videos. And then we worked with two really dope Black ASL interpreters. This is Dr. Regina Daniels, and we also worked with a really talented interpreter, up and coming sister named Renee Gamble, sorry. And we also worked with Sister Valerie Shirley of the Minnesota Deaf Muslim community, who for the last 3 years now has helped us to provide these ASL and voice support videos. The videos were also recorded by D.A. Bullock, who is a longtime friend of Nexus and the Open Road Fund and a really dope cinematographer brother from Chicago, who now lives here. And so once you land on the Open Road Fund application, we have a ton of information available for you on the basic need to know information for how to apply. And so this first page that you land on tells you everything that we just shared about eligibility and some of the basic application rules, such as you can only apply once, either as an individual or as a member of a group. You can't do both. It will tell you about basically what are our requirements, what are the ineligible uses for the fund. And as you go through that information, it's going to ask you to confirm that you have reviewed and understand the rules. And then it's also going to tell you a little bit more about our application and selection process, which we've also shared at a high level here on this call. And it's going to give you a very abridged version of that information. And if you want to know more, then you're going to have this link right here to visit our frequently asked questions page. And then you can get more detailed information about that. And based on how you feel about our process, about our rules, about who is eligible, if you decide that applying for the Open Road Fund is for you, then your next step is to click yes, I'm going to continue with registering for the fund. You hit next page. And then we're going to talk you through how to save and resume your application. And I'm going to do a live demo for you right now. So at the top of the page, whether you are on a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone, if you look for this little section that says save my progress and resume later and resume a previously saved form, this is where you're going to come to self-service, getting access to your application and saving it when you want to take a break. The application is designed to be short enough to do in one sitting, but we like to encourage people to respond thoughtfully to the questions that are here. Most of the questions are just multi-select or contact information, demographic survey style questions, but we do have 3 to 5 long answer questions in this application where it requires you to do some thinking before you respond. And so if you want to save your progress at any time, the first step that you want to do is click right here where it says save my progress and resume later. It's going to ask you to enter your email. Please, please, please be sure to enter the correct email for you. We would encourage you to not use a school or a work-based email. So if you don't have your own personal email, now's the time to start one up. I'll also say, please only use one email per application. And so if you are a parent and child, and usually your child uses your email for all of their correspondence online, please make an individual email for your child. If you are a couple and you share the same email, please make individual emails for yourselves. If you don't, there's a risk of your application not going through into our system or getting lost in our system. And so what you want to do is write down, write email. I'm just going to use this little jankety demo email that I always use. You want to make a password that you can remember. Let's find out what my password is because they're going to try and hack me. And you want to be sure to write those things down before you go on to the next step, which is to click save. And then if you try to enter a janky password like I just did, our software is going to tell you, no, bro, you need to make it stronger. So go back and make a good password. And I'm not going to tell y'all what I use because y'all might try and steal it, right? And then once you enter a strong password, you hit save. Got to make sure it's the same thing. So you should pay attention. Laugh at myself if I if I mess up on the live demo again. And I did. All right. Let me start messing with y'all for a second. All right, just being mean to me. Okay, so if you enter a strong password, like I just did after several attempts, then the next field that you're going to see is this thank you page. So it's going to say, thank you, your response has been saved. So let's assume that, you know, you come here, you save it, and then you click away. You just go to a different tab, or you lose this tab, or you close out your web browser, whatever. And then you need to get back to it. So how do you resume your application? I'm glad you asked. Let me go back to the original form. So most of the times when you resume your application, you're going to wind up back on the home page for our application. And so whenever you want to resume it, all you do is go back up towards the top of the application, whether you're on your computer, a tablet, or a phone. And you want to click right here on this link that says resume a previously saved form. And then this pop-up is gonna hop on the screen. Are you sure you want to resume a previous response? Any information you just entered on this page will be discarded. Go ahead and click OK. It's going to ask you if you want to leave the page or stay. Go ahead and click leave page. And then it's going to take you to this new page that says identity check. And it's going to ask you to enter your email and your password that you used. That's, of course, if you were, yeah, fingers crossed that you remembered it. Hopefully I remember mine. So I'm going to enter stuff. Okay. And let's see. Okay, so I entered the wrong password. So what do I do if I enter the wrong password? Should I call Olivia and Dualba and everybody else on the Open Roll Fund team? No, you shouldn't do that. What you should do is go click where it says forgot your password. If you click there, it's going to send you an email after you enter the email that you used. And if you hit continue, then we will send you a link to your email that says reset password for the 2025 Open Roll Fund application. And if you click on it, it will help you reset your password. So we don't got to do it for you. Boom. But if you do need assistance, then you can email us at orfsupport@nexuscp. We'll type that into the chat and it'll also be available on the application once it goes live. But for right now, let's go back to the application demo and I'll take y'all through the rest of it. Okay, so we're just jumping back. All right, so let's go through this a little bit more. So again, you want to confirm that you understand the rules. You want to confirm that you want to continue. This next page, like we just did, it shows you how to save your application. There's an optional meditative activity here if you just want to get warmed up before you start. And then we get into the actual application. And so as we said, you can apply for the Open Roll Fund as an individual or as a member of a group. Your group can be anywhere from 2 to 5 people. If your group is selected, then each of you receives $50,000 that you have to pull together towards one common project. And specifically, that project has to be about real estate, economic power, so starting a business or a cooperative or an investment group of some sort, or it has to be about, what was the last one, Olivia? You remember? Or was it just those two?
I think it was just a business and real estate. I think it's just those two. And I just want to be clear. So if you have a group of 2 people, you're each getting 50,000. So that means that your project is a $100,000 project.
That's correct. So
Sometimes unclear.
where? So let's just assume that for this time around, we're gonna look at the individual application. So if you click individual, the application contact information fields pop up. But if you do decide to start a group, then this different section pops up and you can select how many people are in your group, and we'll ask you similar questions. Basically, the only difference is that we want to know about your group, and then each individual member of your group will come to this same application and fill out the exact same questions to determine their eligibility and to collect demographic information and to answer questions about ancestry. So every question that I show you on the individual application, besides this section right here, is going to be the same. So you go through and enter your name. I'm going to put Nexus Community. Enter a fake phone number so that y'all can holler at me after the call. Y'all already know my email. And y'all probably putting it on little hacker boards and stuff like that right now. So you know that's what it is. You want to make sure that the email is correct. And your information. Live on Freedom Lane in Freedomville. Probably never heard of it, but it's in Minnesota. Zip code is 55555. And again, as you go through the application process, each section has these support videos here. If you would prefer to hear the questions read aloud to you, or if you would prefer to see them signed in ASL, just to help you get oriented. And that's something that we like to offer for our deaf, hard of hearing, blind, kin folks, and also for folks who just prefer to get that information read to them. So you're going to go through the eligibility survey. Again, you want to make sure that you are the correct age. I'll put 1980. And I wasn't actually born in 1980, but you know. Place of residence, I live in Minnesota. It's going to ask you if you identify as Black and as a descendant of African people who endured the transatlantic slave trade to the Americas. It's going to ask you if you've received an Open Road Fund award before. If you have and you're applying again, sorry, can't do that. You can only get the award once. It's going to ask you if you've applied before because we want to know who's applying again. And then it's going to ask you to confirm that your information is true. And then we have this demographic section. We have this section to make sure that we are reaching as many people in a broad way, a broad spectrum of our community as possible. It's going to ask you about your income. And for all of these questions in the demographic section, whether it's gender or finance related, you can always put prefer not to say if you want to. So that's what I'm gonna put here because some of y'all might be nosy. How much do I make? I don't know. You don't need to know. We also have this section about financial situation statements. The reason why we ask these questions is not to be nosy and intrusive about y'all, but just to get a pulse on the economic vitality of our community. Because there isn't a lot of data about our financial situation specific to our community here. But again, if you don't want to answer any of those questions, you can put prefer not to say. We also ask
No, go ahead.
We also ask folks to share if they wish, if any of the following life experiences here apply to them. We do that because we want to make sure that we are reaching folks in our community who have been made further vulnerable economically because of certain situations that are marginalized in the society. And again, you can hit prefer not to say. What were you about to add,
So I
Vivian?
am gonna add, I thought that this was what you were about to say, but with the, if you scroll up,
Mhm.
someone is asking you about like your financial situation. So if you have money left over and stuff, if you are selected, we ask you again afterwards. So it helps us see the impact that we're having on our awardees too. So
Mhm. Yeah. So I'm gonna hit none of the above. We also ask that if you have a case manager, parent, or guardian, or an organization that helps you apply, write their name and email here. Um, this is not a matter of like whether or not you're qualified if somebody helps you apply. In fact, we encourage you to get help in applying for this fund. Like, don't work on this application alone. Work on it in groups. If you want to organize your own like open road fund application parties, please do so. If anybody tries to charge you money to get help on the open road fund application, please report that person to us. All assistance to apply for the open road fund is free, should be free, and will always be free. Um, but specifically, if you have a parent, guardian, case manager, or an organization that helps you apply, write their name and email here. That way, if you're selected for an award and we can't reach you, we can reach the person that helped you to apply and that you whose support you might need to complete the next steps of the process. We'll also ask you how you heard about the fund. I heard about it from Olivia, so I'm gonna put word of mouth. And then the final part of this section is we let you know that we verify folks' identity as we go through the application process. That's to discourage fakes, bots, impersonators from getting access to these funds that we've been trusted to protect by our community. And so we just ask you to confirm that here, and then you can hit next page. And then we get into the ancestry section. In this section, this is where we ask you to talk a little bit about your origins. Some of us come from the United States or Mexico, Canada, anywhere in North America. But you know, they got Black people everywhere. So you might be from a Black community in Honduras, or you might be from a Black community in Colombia or Brazil. You might be from Jamaica. You might be from Cuba. You also might be a repatriatee to Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. If so, we want to know where in the Americas, as far as you know, did your family originate after being kidnapped and brought here? Where do you see your roots being at here in the Black diaspora? And if you know about where your family is from in the continent too, that's beautiful. And so if you want to share that with us in the following sections, where we ask you to tell us more about your origins and how your family came to be in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, or the native nations whose territories are occupied by those three states, you can share more about that here. And then we also want to know about how you are connected to Black communities in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Um, Particularly Black communities that are descendants of enslaved Africans here in the Americas. And so we give you space to talk about both of those things. Then in the next page, we start to ask you about your wealth building projects. So we share our wealth definition, which you've already heard. We like to know how people feel about the statement. And so we ask what people's opinion on it is. And we also ask people for feedback on it. And so if there's anything that you want to change about the statement, you could tell us. And as we run the program over time, the definition of wealth may change to reflect the applicants. And then we end the application by asking you, what is your $50,000 wealth building project? What would you do with a gift of $50,000 to build wealth for yourself, your family, or your community? Keeping in mind that you cannot use an award from the Open Road Fund to start a nonprofit organization or primarily engage in charitable activities like giving your money to a faith institution, a political campaign, or just giving your money away to people that you meet on the street. You have to use this money to build wealth for yourself, your family, and your community. And so in this section, that's where we ask you about it. And then we ask you to select which of the 5 wealth building categories of the Open Road Fund does your project fit into the best. And after that, simple, hopefully thought-provoking and healing process, we ask you to submit your identity verification documents, and all of the identifying documents that we accept are right here on this page and on our website. We accept either one primary identifying document, which is listed here, or we'll take two secondary identifying documents, which are described here. And so just want to clarify that we do accept expired photo IDs and driver's licenses that are issued by Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. They can be no more than 1 year expired, and then you have to submit a secondary form of ID that confirms that you are a resident of the region. And so after you read that, we give you this box where you can upload your documents. You just click here where it says browse, and then you can click on the photo or a PDF of your identifying documents. You upload them. And then once you're ready to turn in your application, you just hit submit. And that's it for the whole application process. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and go back to our slides. And I'm gonna look at the 50 billion questions that are probably in the Q&A. Actually, look like we got about 14 or 15. And so actually, do I even need to share slides? Maybe we can just
Want to just do it?
no, we could just look each other in the eye, or I could look at y'all on the keyboard, I guess. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So cool. We're gonna take the Q&A from the top.
Okay, cool. You want me to go and then you can go since you just finished?
Yeah, let me rest my voice, get some water.
All right. So the first question is, will groups be awarded more funds than an individual? And how long will it take to notify applicants if they are successful? So yes, in a group, each person in that group gets $50,000. So again, if it's a group of 3, it's $150,000. And if it's just you, then you get $50,000. But all of that money has to go to the same goal. So I can't stress it enough. If you are a group and somebody wants to pay for college, somebody else wants to start a business, and somebody else wants to pay off debt, you will not get approved. We will be notifying applicants if they were selected in August.
Yeah, I'm just checking that to confirm.
Yeah.
We will confirm by by the end of August.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And so it'll be really hard to miss us if you're selected. We're going to call you, we're going to text you, we're going to email you, we're going to call you like a bunch of times, probably.
If we can't reach you, we might have to pull up on you and just be like, yo,
Yeah.
take this money.
But no, so we'll probably give you about a week to get back to us. And if we don't hear back from you, then we'll move you into declined and select someone else. So do keep an eye out, and you will hear either way is also what I want to say. So if you are not selected, you will get an email. You will not get a call or a text. But if you are selected, you'll also get an email and a call and a text.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to answer the next question, which is, why wouldn't you require the letters of support up front? If somebody snuck in and then I found out to not be eligible to be picking up. Yeah. So we don't require the letters of support up front because we have built in the identity verification process to help both discourage people from faking the funk and also to catch people who are faking the funk. The letters of support, the intention for that is to make sure that there are people in your community who are helping you to review and think about your wealth building plan. And it lets us know that people you're in community with have checked out your plan and they vouch for it, and they also vouch for you. So by the time you get to the point where you need to have a letter of support, we already know that you're a real person, that you're actually eligible for the program. We built some kind of a relationship with you. And so we get all the information that we need to know if somebody is truly qualified for the fund up front. And then in terms of if somebody's found to not be eligible, in the middle of the selection process, which I think is what you're asking, yeah, we disqualify that person, we select another person who is truly eligible and go with that candidate instead. All right, so that question is done. It's on you.
All right. So what if the person selected doesn't have support? How can we provide 2 letters of support if the people around us aren't a safe space? Asking because I've gone no contact with everyone to preserve my sanity. I'm so sorry. Um, and you may not like this answer. I'm keeping it straight up. Like, you have to be connected to Black community. So if at the time that you apply, you don't have 2 people that you can go to ask for a letter of support, like, start building those relationships. Reach out to a coworker at work and be like, "Hey, I applied for this thing. Can you look over my plan?" And maybe, and the letters are short. The letters are not, they don't need to know you for 20 years. You don't have to be super close. They just have to be able to be like, her plan is dope. I believe in it. I think you should select her. And we will ask for like contact information, right? So we want to like social media, phone numbers, email, stuff like that. Though, and there's a template if you are selected, so you can see it. But we will verify the people that are writing your letters, and you do have to have those letters. So
I would also add to Olivia's answer that the community care calls, the different online events that we host connected to the Open Road Fund and Nexus in general, can be opportunities for you to meet like-minded Black folks in the region. So the only stipulation for people who can write your letters of support is that they would also be eligible for the Open Road Fund. And so you might live in rural Minnesota and you meet through, let's say, the Open Road Fund Community Care Call, someone who is really dope in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And that could be one person who writes a letter of support for you. Um, it could be folks that you've known from the past and maybe have fell out of touch with, but are still good people that you trust. I would encourage you to reach out to them and ask if they will support your project. Part of the reasoning behind it too is that we want people who are selected for the award to get into the habit of sharing their ideas for building wealth for themselves. And so sometimes that means you might have to cold call somebody and say, "Hey, I got I have the opportunity to get $50,000 to generate $50 million. And I want to know if you would give me your thoughts on this project and if you believe in what I'm doing." So that might not be the answer that you were looking for, but hopefully it helps. And if you have any challenges in getting the letter of support, if you are selected as a finalist for the fund, then just let us know, and our team, may be able to help you figure something out. So let's go on to the next question. I can't remember if it's you or me. Is it me? It's
I
probably
think it's you.
okay. Can we use the grant for more than one thing that you guys support? The answer to that question is yes. So when we ask you to select a wealth building category for your project, what we're asking you to select is, what is the primary activity that you're going to engage in to build wealth for yourself? Let me give you an example. I might want to apply to the Open Road Fund to buy a house. But as we know, there are a lot of, or as some of us may know, and as some of us hopefully will find out through the process of getting the funds, there can be a lot of obstacles to purchasing a home. A lot of financial obstacles like credit, um, needing to have a stable foundation financially. You need to have money for down payment. You need to be able to provide for your family while you're in the process of looking for a house. And so I might say, yeah, my primary project is housing, but I also need to pay off some student loans that are holding me back from getting the financing that I need for a house. And so even though my primary project is housing, I might take 5,000 of the award and put it towards paying off some of my loans. And so it's 2 separate things, but the main goal is to get into the house. Also, we do account for people changing their minds throughout this process. And so you may start off thinking that you want to start a business. And then throughout the process of learning about financial wealth building and gaining deeper financial literacy, you may decide, actually what would be most useful for me and my family is to take all 50,000 of these dollars and put it into a college savings account for my child. And you are welcome and invited to make that choice throughout the wealth building application process if you're selected as an awardee. We also have in the wealth building project application a section for you to say how much of your award you want to portion off to cover your living expenses so that you can have the freedom to prioritize going fully into your wealth building project if there's something that you want to do or need to do, especially if you're starting a business or using the funds to go to school. So we have different ways for you to indicate how you want to use the money across the different categories, but we do want to know like what's going to be your priority, what's going to be your focus. So hopefully that answers the question.
Dope. All right, I'm going to read the next two because they're related and I can answer them at one time. So the first question is, with the application doing random selection, does this mean that we're unable to acquire information on why we were not selected in the previous years? Because this person applied 2 years in a row. And the question under that says, sure, there is no perfect method, but rather than essentially making this a lottery, why not choose a percentage of applications that would multiply the gift, meaning wealth building plans that help more than one family? It just seems to me with the purpose of this money to move our people forward financially, to just randomly gift awards via a generator is a missed opportunity. I hear you, bro. But let me explain it to you. So the first question, there is not a reason that you were not selected necessarily, right? If you were eligible and your application hit all of those marks, there's not a reason that you weren't selected, because we do random selection. So why we do random selection is because the first year we got 11,000 applications. The second year we got 4,500 applications. And even if we had the manpower to read and rank and vote on every application, we wouldn't be able to do it. We hosted a care call, which I invite everybody to come to if you are not selected. It's the third care call. And we talk about the feelings of not being selected, right? And in those sessions, people were talking about what they wanted to do with the money, right? So you have a houseless mother with 4 or 5 kids, 3 kids, 1 kid, doesn't really matter. And she wants to use those funds to get an apartment, right? And then you have an elder who wants to make sure that her house is in the best condition that she can get it in so that when she passes, her family is in the situation where they don't have to worry about what to do with the house or what to do with any of it, right? And there is no way that we could choose between those and feel good about it, right? Everybody in our community has really dope ideas for wealth building. We're all really brilliant and incredible people who are trying to do the best that we can for ourselves and the people that we're connected to. And so there is just no way for us to make that decision and not feel like we're passing someone else by. And so our solution to that is to do random selection and then to read over those applications to make sure that they're aligned. And if the person who was selected has a good application, we are absolutely going to make them a finalist. So again, there is no reason that you were not chosen. But you can reach out to us if you want to see past applications. But just so you know, we're not reading them like, this isn't good enough. She wants to start a food truck. We don't care. We're not doing that. And also that's why we do random selection. So I hope that that answered the question sufficiently.
All right, let's go on to the next one. So this question is, what's the percentage of applicants getting this award in previous years from Minnesota? So that information is actually on our website right now. I believe that this past year, the percentage of awardees from the metro region was between 73 to 74%. So a little under the population distribution. But it winds up, it's 100 awards. So, 74, 75 go to folks in the Twin Cities Metro, and then the remaining 25 are distributed across the Dakotas. And that's more than likely what the distribution will be for the following years.
Since majority of applicants who receive the funding made under 30K a year, is it worth applying for people who make more? Absolutely. We don't select people who only make under 30,000. The distribution, so the way our tool works um is it is proportionate to the distribution of people who apply. So most people who apply make under 30,000. So most people who get the grant make under 30,000, but we are not controlling for that. So if you make more than that, you should absolutely apply.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one. This question is, what is the realistic likelihood of actually receiving this grant, especially for applicants like us who are applying for the third time after being denied twice, particularly considering that it's a lottery-based system? We know that the program is growing quickly, and we're just hoping to better understand our chances moving forward. So, first, I would say thank you for continuing to trust in and believe in the process. It does matter to us that people do apply again, and it also matters to us that we know who is applying and who is not being selected. Um, and so I can't communicate the odds for you, because the tool doesn't work like that. I have seen in the second year folks who did apply in the first year, and didn't get it, who were selected. There's no way that we have to control for that. Um, and so what I would say first is I will always encourage you to apply for the open road fund, if you don't get it. What I would say is that we've designed this application so that at a certain point, a couple things will happen. If you continue to apply for the open road fund for your wealth building project and you haven't been selected yet, a next step for you is to take that wealth building plan and start to talk to people in your community and people outside of your community who might invest in your project, invest in your vision. So use this as an opportunity to take some time for yourself to figure out a plan for how you want to build wealth, and also to practice talking about that idea so that you can find folks who will support it. That's one of the main intentions behind this program and the way the application is set up. Because we knew that we wouldn't be able to fund the majority of people that applied. The second thing that I will say is that we encourage people every year to reuse their responses from the previous year. And so if you have a really cold idea and you know you locked in on it, like just set it on autopilot, bro. Like use the answers from last year and just, copy paste it right into the application. You don't have to write a fresh application every year, but every year that you enter, you have at least I mean, it's one of the only opportunities that exists in our region for you to randomly get selected to receive $50,000. And so I would say just based on that, copy paste them answers from last year and put your name in the hat every year. I know that it's frustrating to not be selected. I've applied for much more complicated grants than the one that we have. And it sucks to not be chosen for an award. But don't let that discourage you. Let it encourage you to continue to pursue your vision for building wealth. And you never know what might happen. It might not be until the 8th year that you get the award. Or, again, Beyonce might give us money. Beyonce might be like, yo, here's $200 million. And then we can give out 400 awards in a year. We never know what could happen. So don't lose hope. Don't be discouraged. Continue to apply. Make a system for yourself to put your application on autopilot if you really believe in your idea. And if you change your mind, that's fine. Let us know. Just continue to apply. Hopefully that answers your question.
All right. Next question. So let's say everyone's application is legit. Are the 100 people that are randomly selected automatic winners? Kind of. Hopefully. So what happens is you get selected, and if everybody's legit, right, in this scenario, then they would move through into the second part of the application where you have to do some more work. You have to attend some meetings, you have to do some stuff. But if they do all the stuff, then yes, So if you are selected and your stuff is legit and you do all of the steps on part 2, then yes.
Yes, and here's a little asterisk. If your project is eligible, so if you are saying, "Hey, Duwaba, if you give me $50,000 from the Open Road Fund, I'm just gonna stand on the corner and give away money. I'm just gonna give a stack to each person that passes me on the street." That's not gonna work because that's not building wealth for
That
yourself.
would be a not legit application too.
That would be a not legit application. But I just want to clarify, like if your wealth building project is aligned with the intentions of this program, then yes, from the moment that you are selected as a finalist, you're legit, you're actually qualified for the fund. We will support you through all of the steps that you need to go through to get the award. And the only ways that people have not received the award is because they dropped out, unfortunately, in the middle of the process for reasons that are still unknown to us.
Which was a question in the chat. So the reason that people dropped out, we don't know why, but they just stopped responding after they were selected. It was too late to select another person. And so that's what happened with that.
Yeah. Let me see. Here's a quick question. Are there words or language we want to focus on or ignore when applying? How we respond to this question is so some people interpret the fact that this is a random selection process to mean that we're not really checking for quality or thoughtfulness of responses. And so what I want to encourage everybody to do is when you respond to the questions, please know that there are no trick questions on the Open Road Fund application. There are no questions that are designed to trip you up on the Open Road Fund application. The only questions that are asked on the Open Road Fund application are the ones that we need to know that you are actually eligible for the application so that we know how you want to use your funds if you were selected for an award, and so that we know a little bit about your ancestry and how you're connected to communities of African people whose ancestors were enslaved in the Americas. Um, and so you can give us as much or as little information as you want, but we need to be able to know that you actually are eligible for the program. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. There's no particular keywords that we're looking out for. We just need to have a reliable, dependable answer to the question so that if we review your application, there's no questions, there's no red flags about whether or not you actually are meeting the criteria for the fund. Let's see what else we got.
Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah. So the next question is a random selection split between groups and individuals for who gets the award? For example, select 50 people who are in groups and 50 individuals. No, it's not split that way. I can't tell you how we decide to apportion the awards for groups versus individuals. But we do use that process. We decide as a collective, that's our team and our advisory committee, how many gifts we want to apportion for people who are members of groups and for individuals. And what I can share is that we prioritize making gifts to individuals just so that the awards get out further. But we do hold a substantial portion of the awards for people who are in groups. That's all I can say on that one.
Cool.
Next question is,
Sorry, I'm just gonna go.
yeah.
Do you select a specific amount of people from each category? So 20 from financial, 20 from education. No, we do not. It's really proportionate to the kind of applications that we get. So if most people are applying to start a business, then most people who are selected will be starting a business.
Mhm.
That's that.
Let's
Can we take the next one, or you want to go?
let's see when it comes. All right, I'll take it because I'm reading it. I'm starting to read it out loud. When it comes to the application and telling you guys what we want to use the funds for, can we pick more than one project? For example, could I do health and housing? Or will I only be able to do one or the other? Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you just are abundant in ideas for ways to build wealth, you're a serial entrepreneur, whatever. Yeah, you can tell us like, hey, I got five different ways to make 50,000 into 50 million. Let me tell you about them. Um, when you get to the section where it asks you to pick the wealth building category, I would say pick the category of the project, either like if there's a common theme across your projects. So for example, if you have five different business ideas that you write about in the how would you use your gift to build wealth section, then yeah, I mean that's economic power. The common theme across your projects is to build wealth through economic power. Or if you are similar to the person in this question, you have a health focused project that you want to do or a housing focused project that you want to do. I would say pick for your category the one that you are most likely to do and indicate to us in your response. I have a bunch of different ideas. The one that I'm leaning towards the most is this housing project or this health project, but I'm also thinking about this stuff and I might pivot to that depending on how this year goes or whatever. Hopefully that answers the question. What else you got?
And and if you have like five different businesses that you want to start, you obviously cannot start five different businesses with $50,000, right?
I mean,
Um, maybe not obviously. I
I
mean,
have it like that though.
uh,
But
maybe, but when you get into part two, we will ask you to kind of narrow it down and like make something where we can get a clear idea of how you use to spend the money to build wealth with your category. So you can do five in the registration application, but just know that when you get to the second part, if you're selected, you gotta tighten it up. Um, I'm going to take this next question. So, what are some things candidates are disqualified for? Not being eligible is probably the most one. So again, like we talked about what you need to be eligible. So you have to be 14 or older. You have to live here in the region. So Minnesota, North Dakota, or South Dakota, and you have to be a person of who is descended from enslaved Africans. So those things, and if you have a group, everyone in your group has to be eligible. That also gets people disqualified. So like, if your wife is white, that's cool, but she can't be on your group application. Um,
speaking of which, yeah, for groups, every member of your group has to be eligible for the open enroll fund. Otherwise, the entire group is disqualified. I don't know if we said that at any point during the info session, but let it be known. Everybody who applies for the fund has to be eligible. If you're in a group, everybody in the group has to be eligible, else the whole group is ineligible and disqualified.
yes. And again, your plan has to be aligned. So you cannot start a nonprofit, you can't give it to your church. Like those are things you just can't. So those get people disqualified.
Okay. All right, so we got like 2 minutes left. Let me look through the questions and see if there's anything that we can group together. Um, okay. So let's see. Maybe you pick one last one, and I'll pick one last one. How about that?
All right, cool. I am gonna take the question that says curious.
Sure.
Um, why did you all land on 14? So young. I know many much older people that don't understand finances yet. You're right. But I bet those people who don't understand finances would have a much better like idea of how to use them and what to do if they had financial coaching, and some money to work with to start to understand it. And our youth, and we offer all of those with the Open Road Fund. Um, and our youth have really good ideas, right? We have youth that want to start trucking companies. We had a youth that started a trucking company, that want to use it so that they can get a really good education and go to a better college. And we want to be able to support that too, right? Um, so we landed on 14 because we think that our youth are valuable and have good ideas and deserve to be supported. So.
Mhm. And no, the random selection is not done by AI. I'm gonna do two. So answer that one.
Okay.
Um, let me see. Last question. What if somebody just wants to get the hell out of Dodge with the money because the US is going through it right now? Is that an acceptable use of the money? Just curious. So we let me see. How do I even want to answer that? Because the answer it's like a yes no kind of answer that I got for you. I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, and I think Lavash is also gonna chime in. What we would love to see happen is that people take the money that is gifted to them and use it to build wealth here in our region. That would be the ideal use for the funds. But we also know that people have used their funds to go on trips to Africa, to go on trips to the South, on heritage, cultural, personal development trips. Um, and that eventually they do come back to this region, which is their home community, and share the wealth that they got from that trip. I want to make space for Lavasha to hop in and answer if you still do want to answer. Um, but yeah, so could you take like a temporary hiatus to Canada? I ain't gonna stop you, but I do hope that you would come back and help us out. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in, Lavasha?
No, I think you answered it.
Okay.
I
So-
want to answer one more question, D. I'm sorry. I know if people can sleep, it's fine. But I just want to make sure that this gets through. So Rose put a question in there. I'm sorry, I missed some of the meeting. Is there any way we have to prove that we are descendants of slaves? No, you do not need to do ancestry.com. You do not need to do DNA testing. You just need to tell us how you know that you are. So whatever information you have, give it to us. That's we know that people don't know. I know I've said this, so the people who have been in the meeting, I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but you don't have to do that. But you do have to tell us how you know.
Mhm. Yeah, and the answers don't need to be that complicated. Just share what you know. So it's 7:32, according to the good white boys at Google. And what that means is that our time together is now at an end. Um, I think we answered just about all of the questions that came through on screen, and also some were answered in the chat. And so, if you have any further questions for us before you apply, you can reach out by email. I believe our email is in the chat,
It is
but
a bunch of times.
it's in the chat a bunch of times, but I'm gonna spell it out. Our email is ORF support, SUPPORT, at NexusCP. So that's NEXUSCP.org. If you are joining the call late, don't worry. We recorded it. It's going to be up on YouTube. And if you signed up for this webinar, and if you are on the mailing list, the email list for Nexus or for the Open Road Fund, you will get an email with the link to this information session in the next couple of days so that you can catch up on anything that you missed. If you still are not able to find this call or see the recording, everything that you need to know about the application process is on our website, on the Open Road Fund website, which you'll be able to access if you go to this link and type it out in the chat. But it is NEXUSCP.org/open, OPEN dash road, ROAD dash fund, FUND. So all your questions can get answered there. You can reach out to us via email. You can call and leave us a voicemail. And Olivia also has one more thing for you.
Yeah, I got some more to tell you guys. It's just a little bit. So we are gonna be out in the streets. We're gonna be at Juneteenth events all over the region. Our first one is on the 12th. We're getting Rochester on the 14th, and then we're everywhere on the 19th and some places on the 21st. We will have it on our website, so check it out if you want to come see us in person. We'll be tabling in community.
Yeah.
And we have another care call. So if you have some more questions about ancestry or you're having some feelings, that'll be coming up on our website so that you can register for that as well. It'll be on July 10th. And we'll be happy to have you if you haven't been there. It's a really nice space held by Black mental health professionals. It's lovely.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone who attended tonight's webinar. And we'll have another information session on June 25th from 12 to 1:30. So if you know anybody who wasn't able to make this evening session, but they have more free time during the lunch hour, tell them to register, sign up, and they can get the information that you got tonight from there, or they can watch this recording. I'm looking forward to reading everybody's applications. Please apply. Hopefully you feel more encouraged now that you know more about the process. And we will reconnect with y'all out in the streets during this Juneteenth month. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
So good night, everybody. All right, let's stop the recording.